Welcome to the Book Reader channel.
On this episode of Street Chronicles, New York, a fresh start, or so they thought. Skate links up with his childhood friend Luis, a Spanish hustler who's been holding down his side of the city for years. But business isn't the only thing catching Skate's attention. Luis's cousin, Isabella, steps onto the scene, and sparks fly instantly. The problem? She had an ex, a man who didn't know when to walk away. And now? He's gone. Skate wasted no time wrecking the city, putting a bullet in Rico's head at a stoplight, making enemies without even blinking. Now, he's laying low, waiting for the streets to react. But what's next? What will Skate do now? How will Law handle the situation once he finds out? One thing's for sure, the city's watching, and the next move could set everything off. Stay tuned, because this is your new favorite audiobook, right here on the Book Reader channel. The soft glow of chandeliers bathed tavern on the green in warm light, casting a golden hue over the crisp white tablecloths. The clinking of glasses and low hum of conversation filled the elegant restaurant. But Skate wasn't focused on any of that. Across the table, Isabella smiled, cutting into her steak with precision. She was wearing a sleek black dress that hugged her curves, her long curls cascading over one shoulder. "You barely touched your food," she said, raising an eyebrow. Skate smirked, swirling his drink before taking a sip. "Just thinking." Isabella leaned in slightly. "About what?" Before he could answer, his phone vibrated in his lap. He glanced down at the screen. Text from Law. Code 13. Skate's demeanor shifted immediately. Code 13. They had found someone from the list. Someone they'd been waiting to eliminate. He exhaled, sliding his phone back into his pocket. Isabella noticed the change. "What is it?" Skate wiped his mouth with a napkin and leaned back in his chair. "Business. I gotta handle something." She narrowed her eyes. "Right now?" Skate stood up, pulling a few hundreds from his pocket and tossing them onto the table. "Yeah, right now." Isabella sighed, but she didn't argue. She already knew what type of man Skate was. He leaned down, brushing his lips against her cheek. "I'll catch up with you later." Without another word, he walked out, his mind already locked in on the next move. Dinner was over. It was time for war. The air was thick with sweat, feathers, and the sharp scent of money being passed between hands. The underground rooster fight was loud, men shouting bets while the birds clawed and slashed at each other in the pit. But Skate wasn't there for the birds. He spotted Law near the back, casually sipping a beer while eyeing the commotion. As soon as Skate approached, Law didn't even look up. "A parasite from the past just resurfaced," Law said smoothly, tossing a few bills to a bookie. "We got eyes on him in Florida. Daytona Beach. Some bike rally." Skate cracked his neck. He already knew who Law was talking about. "I'm sending Shooter to handle it tonight," Law added, taking another sip. But before he could say more, Skate cut him off. "Nah," he said. "I'll handle this one myself." Law finally looked up. "You sure?" Skate nodded. "And I'm taking Isabella with me." Law arched an eyebrow. "That so?" Skate sighed, knowing what was coming next. He leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. "I gotta fill you in on some business. I killed Isabella's boyfriend." Law exhaled through his nose. "What the hell, Skate?" "The dude pulled up on me at a light. I had to smoke him," Skate said, voice even. "But that's not the issue. Isabella is Luis's cousin. Luis been looking out for us since we touched down." Law shook his head. "And you think she's not a problem? She was raised right. She ain't saying shit. But I'm gonna make sure of that." La chuckled darkly, shaking his head. Let me guess. You about to get her hands dirty? Skate smirked. Exactly. La tapped his fingers against the beer bottle, thinking, all right, do what you do. But while you gone, we making moves. New York too hot right now. I gotta move these guns. So we heading to Chicago to close that deal. The Fed's been sniffing around ever since the cherry thing. Skate nodded. All right, I'll meet you there when we finish up in Florida. They shook hands, sealing the plan. Meanwhile, across the city, the crew was crumbling. Some of them were getting locked up, caught up in random stings as the NYPD and feds did sweeps through the boroughs. Others? They saw the writing on the wall and decided to dip, leaving to do their own thing. New York had been a good run, but the streets were shifting, and the ones who didn't adjust were about to get buried. Skate pulled up outside Isabella's place, engine idling as he sent a quick text. Outside, pack a bag. A minute later, she stepped out, duffel in hand, dressed in all black, her hair tied back in a sleek ponytail. She climbed into the car without a word, glancing at him. Where we going? She asked. Florida, Skate said, pulling off. We got a job to do. They boarded the Amtrak, opting for a private sleeper car. As the train pulled away from Penn Station, Skate finally exhaled, stretching out in the cramped space. Isabella sat across from him, legs crossed, watching him carefully. So, she said, you gonna tell me why we're really going to Florida? Skate looked at her for a moment, debating if he should even open up. Finally, he leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. This ain't just business, he admitted. This shit is personal. Isabella tilted her head. How personal? Skate's jaw clenched. The target. He killed one of my childhood best friends back when I first came to DC. She blinked. And you just let that slide until now? Skate's expression darkened. Nah. We've been waiting on the right time. And now? We got him. Isabella studied him for a moment. She could see the rage beneath the surface, the way his fingers flexed like he was already gripping the trigger. What do y'all call him? She asked. Skate's eyes flickered up. We call him Pappy. Silence settled between them as the train sped toward Florida. One thing was certain. Pappy's time was up. The rhythmic clatter of the train rolling down the tracks filled the room, a steady hum that neither Skate nor Isabella seemed to notice. They were in their own world now. Skate leaned back against the small bed in their sleeper cabin, his eyes fixed on the ceiling as if he could see right through it. The past was creeping in, and he wasn't fighting it this time. Isabella sat across from him, watching. She could feel it, whatever he was about to say. It carried weight. You ever been to a funeral for somebody that ain't deserved to die? Skate finally asked, his voice low but firm. Isabella hesitated before nodding. Yeah. Skate scoffed, shaking his head. Not like this. He rubbed his hands together, staring at the floor. Worm was one of the realest dudes I ever knew. He was smart, always reading, always planning ahead. That's how he got his name. But he wasn't soft. He could throw hands too. And when I first got to DC, he looked out for me. He paused, his jaw tightening. Then Pappy killed him. Isabella's gaze sharpened. Why? Skate exhaled like the answer itself pissed him off. Over some dumb shit. A robbery gone wrong. Worm had a little hustle going on the side, moving weight, flipping it into legit money. Pappy was supposed to be part of it, but he got greedy, tried to take over. Worm wasn't having it. His fingers curled into a fist. So Pappy set him up, lured him to a spot, ambushed him, shot him twice in the chest. left him to bleed out in an alley. Silence stretched between them, the kind of silence that suffocates. Skate's eyes darkened. I remember that funeral like it was yesterday. His mother was there, barely holding it together. His little sister? Man, she was just a kid. And she was standing there in a dress that was 2 sizes too big, holding on to his picture like it was the only thing keeping her standing. He shook his head, looking away. I told myself right then, one day, Pappy was going to pay for that. Isabella studied him, then leaned forward slightly. So where do I come in? Skate finally looked at her. I need you to help me with this. She raised an eyebrow. Help how? Skate's expression was unreadable. You trust me? A pause. Then Isabella nodded. Then you'll see. The train rattled forward, carrying them closer to Florida, closer to the moment Skate had been waiting for his whole life. And this time, he wasn't doing it alone.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new one. I'll be back with the next episode of the series every Wednesday, so mark your calendars and stay tuned. Catch you next time.